I was sitting cross-legged in the grass outside my house when I found it. It was a warm day with only a slight chill on the breeze to hint at the approach of autumn, and I was young enough to be nothing more than a stream of consciousness and curiosity. When the tufts of green I was gripping randomly pulled up a clod of dirt to reveal a compass beneath, I didn't think it was odd at all. I threw the clump aside and picked up the grimy silver object with my bare hand. The air held that same hint last Saturday. A deep breath brought a twinge of cold to my lungs, the first of the season, and the evoked sense memory brought back that moment of discovery from so long ago. Where was that compass now? I couldn't remember what we'd done with it. I could guess that my parents had taken it from me, but I couldn't be sure. I spent last Saturday in the attic of my parents' house rummaging through boxes. There was one box for each year of my life up to the end of college, and I found it in the box marked Jacqueline, first grade. It was just lying there between two stuffed animals with no plastic or wrapped paper or anything else. Someone had thought enough of it to keep it, but not enough to protect it. Lifting it, I examined it in the dusty light filtering in from the attic air slats. The metal was chill against my fingers, silver as I'd remembered, and intricately carved with patterns of interlocking vines. When flipped open, it revealed an inset white circle under glass, apparently the only thing inside. I thought compasses usually had a spinning pointer, so I angled it back and forth in the dimness trying to... Oh, there it was. Strangely, the needle looked to be made of clear glass, such that it was very difficult to see. The first chance to use it came today. Only 2 days later, there were 4 of us in the car this morning, and Shannon was driving. By pure chance, her phone died halfway to our destination, and Matt and Terry didn't have signal on theirs. I got the compass out of my bag and held it up in the sunlight. We know the general direction we're trying to go, right? They got a kick out of seeing a real compass and asked a bunch of questions, but I didn't really have much information to give them. Instead, I said, "Let's use this to find the cemetery." The silver exterior of the compass grew warm in my hand as I spoke. On pure instinct, I nearly dropped it, but it didn't get painfully hot. While I looked at it in confusion, I saw the glass needle inside flip and point directly ahead. As we approached an exit from the highway, the needle turned, remaining pointed right at it. I stared alternately at the compass and at the exit as we drove past it, and the needle continued to follow it until it was aimed behind us. I think we missed our exit. Terry had been looking over my shoulder. He said, "Is it defective?" Just the opposite. As we approached the next exit, the needle flipped again. "There!" Shannon slowed and took the curve. The needle oriented with us, guiding us down to a stop sign, and then it flipped and ended up hard right. A minute later, it pointed left, then straight ahead. We pulled up outside the cemetery not too long after. "You were looking at your phone, right?" Shannon asked. Terry answered for me, "No, that thing told us how to get here." Matt had not been previously paying attention, but he snapped out of his thoughts to absorb what was going on. We placed our flowers on our friend Brian's grave and stood above it in a half circle. "So this is where they put him," Shannon murmured. Terry gazed down at his headstone. I didn't know him too well, but it does suck when a friend dies. Across our half circle from me, Matt said, "Hey, ask that compass for a different destination. Let's see if that was a fluke." Shannon glared. "We're here to pay our respects. Who gives a shit? That's not him under the ground. He's dead. Gone. He's not here." "Jesus, you're an asshole." "It's not my fault. We just keep acting like it's a tragedy. But the truth is..." Terry kept his eyes on the ground, and I studied the vine patterns on the compass. This was not the first such argument between Shannon and Matt. It was their way of coping with what had happened to our friend. As long as they were angry, they didn't have to feel anything else. But there was a time when we'd been happy. We'd all gotten drunk and wandered there, a temporary place, a lonely place, in the middle of a wide field, the construction site of a house that someone would one day live in. That memory had been lost in time, for there'd been no way to tell where we'd been. We were drunk, it was nighttime, and the wooden frame of a house had no address on it. But now, show me the way to that half-built house we once partied in. Upon hearing that, Shannon and Matt abruptly shut up and backed down from their argument. A human being was gone from our lives, and the only trace of his spirit that remained was now within reach. I said quietly, "Get in the goddamn car." In absolute but expectant silence, we drove. Terry continued to watch the compass from over my shoulder, while Matt sat and observed from the other side of the back seat. Shannon followed my finger as I pointed after the glass needle. Left, left, straight, keep going, right, keep going, down this country road. Stop. We looked out the windows as one. We'd found it. After we climbed out of the car, and as we began the long walk across the field under warm sunlight and chilly breezes, we finally began to speak again. "I would have expected it to be done by now," Matt said with concern. "That was what, 3 years ago now?" Shannon's eyes were wide as we walked. "It's exactly like I remember." "I was so drunk I hardly remember a thing," Terry added. "But it does seem familiar." The compass was pointing directly at it. The silver was still hot in my hand. This was not normal. I knew Matt would push to destroy the compass as soon as possible just to be safe, but I wasn't ready to give it up just yet. Shannon, too, had been deeply wounded by seeing Brian's death, and she would also vote to get rid of it. I put it away in my pocket so that they would think about it less. We entered the skeletal wood frame of the house and began picking our way over discarded tools, lumber, and sheetrock. What do you know?" Terry called over from one hallway that had no walls. He tapped the intermittent timbers. "It's not rotting or anything." Matt moved his shoe through sawdust. "Doesn't look like it's been left half done for 3 years. I moved into the wider, unfinished front room with Shannon, then separated from her somewhat as I wandered. I stopped in place when I saw the impossible. Behind the stack of lumber we'd sat upon all those years ago, there was a pile of discarded beer cans of the type we'd been drinking then. I looked back to make sure nobody was watching me, then I leaned down and angled one of the crumpled cans. A few drops of beer spilled out. What were the chances the house had just sat here for 3 years, unfinished but not rotting? Probably slim. Even giving that one a pass, what were the chances that someone else had left beer here of the same brand recently? I had to get them out of here before they realized what was going on. If they knew what the compass really did, they would definitely want to destroy it. It had guided us to the cemetery as normal because we'd wanted to go to the cemetery as it was now, as it truly existed. But it had taken us to this house as we'd remembered it. It had taken us to the construction site from 3 years ago. My thoughts reeled over the implications of something like that. One question kept repeating in my head. Where were we right now? The weather hadn't changed. When I peered out the glassless windows, it was still the same time and day. The only strange thing about that location was that it wasn't supposed to exist anymore. Construction sites are a very different kind of space, a temporary space, one that exists only for a short time, to be replaced by a more or less permanent building that smells nice and has painted walls and places to sit. Was it possible that construction sites still existed somewhere out there once we could no longer access them? What did that mean for the universe? For existence? These were all questions I wanted to ask Matt, but he would insist we leave and destroy the compass immediately. A dark, haunting note hit me somewhere deep then. I can only describe it as the feeling of a long, trilling synth note from an 80s horror movie. Across the open front room, Shannon had opened a closet door whose other side did not match its surroundings. She looked back at me with concern to confirm I was seeing it too. On the other side of that door, instead of the beginnings of a master bedroom that we could see to either side, was a completely different construction site. Terry and Matt soon noticed us staring, and they crowded up with us to peer through the open door. A single lean past made sure this was definitely a door to somewhere else. "Try another door," Matt said, his eyes on the unfinished office building beyond. "It's nighttime there." Terry ran back down the hallway he'd been exploring and opened another standalone door. It's raining in this one. Still someplace under construction? Yeah. Shannon looked unhappily at me. Let's go. She called to the guys. Let's go, guys. We're done with this. They didn't disagree. Still hoping they'd forget about my compass, I walked with them across the field to the car. They kept looking back, but nothing changed. It was only as we pulled away in the car, and the half-built house finally went out of sight, that Matt said suddenly, "Stop." He turned around in his seat. "Back up. I want to see something." His hunch had been right. Once we'd lost sight of the house, once we'd had to make a turn and weren't standing directly before it, the path the compass had opened had closed. Standing where we'd just explored was now a very nice house with a completed driveway, standalone garage, and 2 cars. Terry thought aloud. There must have been a whole system of construction sites in there, like they all still exist, just like out there somewhere. "I once heard an idea," Matt responded, his eyes distant. "That existence is just what we perceive, a series of experiences and symbols, connected like a network or a spider web. Maybe we get from place to place through routes made of choices and experiences like turns on a map. But that compass directs us off the map to places we shouldn't be able to reach, onto other webs, defunct networks, like a program moving through the internet and somehow reaching an old computer in your basement that's not even connected anymore. Everything we've ever experienced, everywhere we've ever been, it's all still there, just unreachable." He turned in his seat. Normally, I didn't look back at him. I could tell he was watching me from the back seat. While looking at the road ahead, I said, "Is that a bad thing?" Shannon glanced at me. Terry let go of my seat and sat back. "If used carefully and responsibly, no," Matt replied. "But we have no idea how that thing works. What happens if you ask it the wrong question? A dangerous destination? What if you let something into our world? Or what if you lose it while you're somewhere that no longer exists?" He wasn't wrong. He was never wrong. That didn't mean I wasn't still angry about it. It's mine. I found it when I was in 1st grade, and it's never caused a problem before. It doesn't feel haunted or evil or anything. What was I so broken up about? I couldn't articulate it. I just wanted to be anywhere but here. Don't take this from me. Everyone was silent for a good 10 seconds after my outburst. Finally, Matt lifted his hands diplomatically. "I mean, you're right. We've used it twice and nothing terrible has happened." Shannon looked him in the eyes through the rearview mirror. "If she was going to use it more, how should she do it?" He put a hand to his forehead. "Oh God, we're doing this, aren't we?" Terry just looked at each of us with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. That afternoon, we went to a hardware store and bought a ton of gear. The most important was rope. Lots of rope. Then, we looked for a place to test the compass. We couldn't use Shannon's apartment because it had no outdoor space. Terry's place had a Labor Day cookout going on, and Matt's house was on a street that already had its own problems to deal with. Out back of my townhouse was the only option, but at least we had a long flat span of grass and a few rarely used places to walk between communal garages where nobody would see us. The cruddy dirt lane we chose had a discarded baby carriage and several trash bins that had not been touched in months. Shannon helped tie the rope around my waist and I moved to the end of the dirt path. From there, I asked the compass to take me to that time on my back porch when we'd had a cookout. The glass needle swung around and pointed forward, so I followed it and stepped out into my backyard. Where before there'd been nothing but open grass, there was now a long table we'd once carried outside. It had been set with plates, forks, knives, and napkins. The smell of cooking food was in the air, and I moved closer to the back steps to look in through the little window. I didn't see anyone inside, but I could see food cooking on the stove. That was something Matt had suggested. If there was food, could I use the compass to feed myself for free? I opened the door, but then stepped back. Beyond was another open grassy area, but I didn't recognize it. Someone had laid out a picnic near a tree. It was like the network of construction areas, a whole layer of reality full of old picnic and cookout spots. It occurred to me that people thought of these times often, so there were probably countless such places still held in existence somewhere by fond memories. Did they cease to exist when people stopped remembering them? I didn't step through the door. That wasn't part of the first test. Instead, I untied the rope from my waist and tied it around one of the metal fold-out chairs next to the cookout table. I walked back around the corner and found my friends standing there waiting. Did it work? I nodded and joined them. Now that the backyard was out of sight, it should have reverted. We peered around the corner. The cookout table and chairs were still there. My rope ran up to one as I'd left it. That was good. That meant we could hold places open to avoid getting lost. Terry walked the other direction and came around the garage to test another aspect of what was happening. We saw him approach, but in a weird, disjointed double vision kind of way. He joined us in the alley, turned around, and blinked. Whoa, I didn't see any of it when I was coming the other direction. It's symbolic, Matt said absently, his eyes on the rope and the chairs. I don't think there's an actual physical bridge to another place. Otherwise, you would have walked right through it, bumped into something, I don't know. But you didn't, so the real world is obviously still there and operating normally. But from this perspective, right here looking the direction the compass told us to go, we can reach that other place. Shannon looked extremely anxious. I don't like this. I asked, please, can we just try the tests we agreed? She nodded and backed away. The other three of us pulled on the rope, dragging the chair toward us. It had felt real when I'd tied the rope around it, but it disappeared when it came too near, and Matt pointed at the leg we could still see. The chair's still there, in that other place. It can't come back the way you did. Somehow I was certain, because it doesn't have a mind. It's not aware. Something about these lost places was integral with memory, emotion, and the meaning of a location. It was entirely possible there was no actual metal fold-out chair lying half visible a foot away. Perhaps it was just a symbolic representation of one. We all happened to look away at the same time. When we glanced back, now that the rope was with us, the remembered backyard was gone. In its place was the normal flat green Terry had walked over. Shannon held her arms close and asked, "Where else are you going to try?" "Tie yourself again," Matt suggested. "Then ask to go someplace fictional, like from a book, someplace harmless." That was a good idea. Shannon helped tie the rope around me and I asked the compass, "How do we get to Hogwarts?" I felt strange for a moment, but the glass needle didn't move. "How about Asgard?" That strange spinning feeling briefly returned, but the needle again did not move. "It's not going to work," I told them. "I know these are fictional places. It's like I'm not even asking for real." Matt thought for a moment, then said, "What about fictional places that are real to you?" "Huh? Like what?" "Like a memory palace, you know, that technique where you try to remember things for a test by linking the facts to objects in a house. This compass seems to somehow be related to memory links and tags. Try it." The only time I'd ever made a memory palace was for the psychology test in college that had taught me about the concept. I focused and tried to recall as much of it as I could. At the same time, I asked the compass to take me there. That spinning feeling returned in force, nearly causing me to fall over, but the needle moved. The others stared at it in surprise. I began walking. The needle guided me around the edge of the buildings and out to the street. It's pointing at the car. At a loss for what else to do, we untied the rope and piled in. The needle took us on turn after turn until we finally came to my parents' house, where I'd just been 2 days before. They were still on their Labor Day weekend camping trip. I was living at home at the time. The compass took us upstairs and toward my bedroom door. When I reached out and opened it, it swung in to reveal a wide blue marbled hallway leading back into dim gloom. Shannon asked, "Is that it?" It was, exactly as I'd built it in my mind. And it was here, where I'd constructed it sitting at a desk and reading a psychology textbook. It was still bound to the physical location where it had been built. Shannon moved back. I'm not going in there. Then get something to block the door and keep it open like we did the rope, Matt suggested. We won't go too far in either. I was the first to enter. It was eerie entering a place that I'd never actually been before except with my mind's eye. Had I really had all this detail in my head when I'd made it? The dark blue marble had incredibly complex patterns that looked almost fractal in nature. There's no way I made all this detail myself, is there? While studying a jade vase on a marble pedestal that represented one of the answers to my test, Matt replied, It's probably all experiential, remember? You're not actually seeing details. You're just experiencing the dreamlike quality of believing there's detail. Here, check this out. He handed me the jade vase. It was intricately carved and full of patterns, but when I looked away and ran my hands over it, I felt a smooth cylinder that didn't match the sight at all. Indeed, there was no detail but that which I believed. I carefully put the vase back and moved after Terry, who had wandered deeper inside. He'd stopped in front of a blue marble door with a black stone knob. What happens if we open this? I caught his wrist before he touched the black stone. The half-built house was connected to other construction sites, and the cookout was connected to other picnics. So then with this door, he looked at me aghast, and then stared up at the high blue pillars and gloom-shrouded ceiling high above. Have you noticed there are no smells here? He tapped his foot. Or echoes. I didn't make any when I thought it up, I told him, equally amazed that this was possible at all. But this door will go to someone else's memory palace or mind or something. Who knows what we would find? We retreated quickly. Going old places that no longer existed was one thing, but walking around in a dark memory palace that had never existed was too eerie to handle for long. We piled into the hallway, moved the towel Shannon had shoved under, closed the door, and opened it again to find my bedroom as normal. The access was gone. We went downstairs and stood on the porch. Shannon had grown increasingly unhappy. I know what you're gonna do. Huh? I wonder if it's limited. Let's see how far back you can go, Terry said. What's like the oldest thing you can remember? Shrugging off Shannon's weird comment, I said, honestly, I stared down at the compass, finding this. I was so young then, and it was in the box marked first grade. Try to go there, see if it works. I thought about where I wanted to go, felt very strange, and then caught my balance. The compass pointed toward the side of the house. I went around the corner and found the lawn, not as it was now, but as I remembered it, wide, big, green. It was not a tremendous change, but I could feel that I was back there. And so was Shannon. She came at me with a fury, shouting, I know what you're gonna do, you can't. What? I asked her as I tried to fight her off and keep her away from the compass. What are you so worried about? These places, she screamed at me. They're human memories, imagination, beliefs. Sooner or later, you're going to ask the compass to show you the way to heaven or hell, and it's going to take you there. My God, that was an incredible idea. What if our beliefs made those places real somewhere? If abandoned construction and memory palaces really existed somewhere, why not heaven? What if instead of dying, we could literally walk people to heaven? Or instead of capital punishment, show criminals a literal and real hell and scare them straight? Even send the worst offenders there? Matt and Terry pulled her away from me then, and the three of us dragged her kicking and screaming back to reality at the front of my house. I was absolutely seized by the implications of what she'd said. This could change everything. Forget religion and sin and judgment. No need for anyone else's approval. We could just walk to heaven. But where would it be? If my memory palace had anchored where I'd thought it up, was the walkable link to the afterlife somewhere in Africa or the Middle East? Who had first had the thought? Who had first come up with it? Were there millions of different afterlives that were all different based on personal beliefs and imagery? And if only sentient thinking beings could move in and out of these surreal places, what did it mean if we dreamt up a sentient thinking being like a god or gods? Could we find them and bring them back here? Or did they even need to come here? Did our belief make them real somewhere, with enough power to watch over us? I shivered as I stood and stared at Shannon as she continued fighting her friends to get at me. Was the devil real? What if he could find a way to reality from the labyrinths of our collective imagination? We would find out all these answers and more. I turned around and checked my hands and pockets. I'd dropped the compass in my earliest memory, and it was gone. Only reality remained. I could feel my young self picking it up out of the grass at that very moment decades before. I was finding it where I'd left it. For a moment, a short moment, my mind had been so alive with possibilities and wonder. But at least I knew where the compass had come from now. Now that it is gone, I have to wonder if I ever really found a compass that could take me to fond memories. It feels surreal, and the only thing I have left of it is a memory of what it looked like. I sat on the porch alone for an hour and felt nothing but a deep swelling darkness. I wrote this to get it out. There's no moral, no lesson learned in any of this, no creature or terror. Just a brief moment of possibility and danger, then nothing more. And our friend was still dead. Hello there, hope you enjoyed the story. If you'd like to hear more stories from this universe, check the playlist on screen or in the description. Stay creepy, and see you in the next story.